Yeah, so today I'm here with Andrew, aka the Lappies, Loubser, and of course we are coming to everybody live from the deeply rooted studios out in Morningside. And I have known Andrew for a number of years. I think he's known me more because I feel like he's got this aerial view of the entire music industry, not only in Durban, but he keeps an eye out nationally and also now internationally, having moved from ground level, from doing events, being on the technical, on the rig, on the stage side, all the way up to artist management, events organizing, and now large scale events organizing. We're talking levels of, World Cup. That's mega. That's absolutely mega. And so I'm so glad that in all your travels and your busyness, Andrew, that you've had a moment to come and meet with us and talk
Awesome.
to us.
Very
Away.
stoked.
Thank you. So, my first question: how did you get the nickname the Lappies?
Lappies. So it started off with a mate of mine's dad. When we were watching rugby back in the day, there was a player called Lappies Labaskachni. And he used to just call me, David's dad used to call me Labaskachni all the time. And then it just like morphed into the guys starting to call me Lappies instead of Labaskachni. And then when I started in the music industry, this was about 2 years before I started playing with THC. Started playing with THC, and the Lappies, all of a sudden, Lappies just stuck because in Afrikaans, Lappies means lots of small rags. And basically what the guys were saying was, your nickname fits perfectly because that's all you do is clean up the mess like you're lots of small rags. So I was always there making things happen. So, and it just stuck. To me, I feel more comfortable being named Lappies. I mean, I had Casey this weekend going, Andrew, Andrew, Andrew. And I was like, after the third time, oh, he's calling me. I'm so not used to being called Andrew. It's Lappies.
Okay.
So yeah, it just stuck properly.
I'm going to call you Lappies throughout
That's
the interview
perfect.
then.
I mean, I get people in the industry, I phone them up, hi, it's Andrew. Andrew who? Andrew Loubser. Who? Lappies. Oh, how are you, Lappies? So it's just like, yeah, I've been known by that name now for so long that I can't even tell people my real name.
Dope. Okay, so I'd like to start right at the beginning. Allow our audience an opportunity to also get to know who you are as a being, as a person, not just what you do. Would you please tell us where you grew up, how your upbringing was as a child, just the early days of Lappies?
Early days, sure. So born in 1973 at Addington Hospital, like most of us Durbanites. From there, my dad was a fitter and turner, so we moved up to Wartburg to the sugar mills. I was about 3 when that happened. Then we moved to Doonside down the coast by Toti and like when I was about 4. Then I remember when I was 5 we moved into Ambilo. So my dad used to work at Cortals Textiles, SA Fabrics, and he was a fitter and turner. And then I was the eldest of 3 boys, so it was like wasn't easy growing up. I mean, obviously there were a lot of costs with 3 boys, and my dad not earning as much as he should. My mom used to work as well, so it was like quite a busy time for them. I mean, they'd come home from work, have to cook, clean, and sort everything out. Myself and my brothers would always just be causing stress. So, I mean, my brother is 2 years younger than me. We never really got on when we were kids. Only now, since we left school and left home, we're like the best of buds. He's been in Australia for 18 years now, or 23 years now. So hopefully I'll go get to visit him soon. But yeah, it was tough. I enjoyed it though, because in the end of the day, it was a real upbringing. We played on the streets, we played football in the streets, we rode bicycles. There was none of this social media and TV. And I remember the first night we watched Mnet Open Time. I was like, wow. So yeah, it's for me, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm glad I went through what I did, because it sometimes was tough, but other times really rewarding, knowing that you've worked towards something and you've achieved it. That first step of leaving school was like, wow, okay, that's done. Now it's the army. Did a year in the army, and then from there, that's where everything started.
Okay. Speaking about school, where did you go to school?
I started off at Stella Park in Ambilo, and then I was class 1 to standard 2, and I went to Stellawood up till standard 4. Then it was Glenmore for 4 and 5. in Glenwood for 6 and 7, and then I left Glenwood and ended up at Brettonwood, which was the best choice I ever made. And I matriculated there in 1990, and then from there did my year in the army. Was the first. We were the first guys to have the service reduced to a year, because obviously the border war ended and all of that. And we did our 1 year, came out of there, and I started off as a sandblasting and painting foreman, until a mate of mine and I started drumming one day, and we were like, okay, let's start a band. And that was it. We started a band, and that's where I've ended up in the industry. It was actually Splashy Fen was the festival I was at when I was watching a band and went, I'm starting a band, I'm becoming a drummer. The next year THC played at Splashy Fen. So I like set my goals, myself and Dale Lithgow, a good mate of mine. We were like, we're going to play here. Within a year we were playing the festival. So it was a quick road into the industry, but yeah, I've loved it. It's from all the way through school. I was never fond of school, but I don't think anyone is. But it gave me the basics to get the knowledge that I've got today, to understand things. Also, growing up in like a slightly rougher area, you tend to work harder for things, which is good. And I'll always acknowledge that. I'd rather go through it hard and learn the hard way than learn the easy way and forget it too quickly and then make the same mistake again. And that's what life's all about, eh?
That's mad powerful. I'd love to go back a step there. I didn't know that you'd spent time in the army. A lot of our, the younger generation, looking at the millennials, kids born in the early 2000s, have no idea what that life or that experience is like. Would you mind to touch briefly on, what you feel you gained, or what that experience, spending 1 year in the army was like, please?
Yeah, to me, I was lucky. I'm asthmatic, so I was G3K2, so I was medically unfit for service, but I had to work in one of the kind of areas like in the stores or in the kitchen. So I did, first 6 months I was company storeman, and then I moved on to being a chef in the second half of that year. So I did 6 months as a chef, but it basically taught me like resilience, that you're always going to have something thrown at you, and it's the way that you react to that situation firstly, which is going to determine the outcome that you come up with. Because going into something where you're angry or you're stressed, you're not thinking clearly. It's always, and that's what it gave me a really good foundation for what I do today, because it's like, stand back, breathe, take a second, figure it out, make a decision, go with the decision. If the decision's the wrong decision and you've done something wrong, you can always write it down the line. But with events, you have to make that decision. And that's what the army gave me, was that definitive ability to go, right, stick by that. If it's wrong, take the flak. If you're right, well done. Keep moving.
That's dope. That's really dope. I feel a lot of the younger generation need a lot more of that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It really gives you direction. It's basically that whole thing of break you down and build you back up. All my mates that have come out through the army, all, like, I'd say a lot more set in their ways and understanding of what they're doing and why they're doing it, rather than like a couple of the younger guys are like, they're a bit like all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad. For me, I wouldn't want to do it again, but yeah, I'm glad I went through it, put it that way.
Okay, cool. Speaking about the younger generation, like, you have decades of experience, of vast knowledge of various sides of the entertainment, music, events industry. Is there any way that you are currently passing it forward per se, or do you have any appies or like, are there younger people that you're teaching some of the knowledge you have to at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jamad, my business partner in Slingshot, came to me in 2004. He was a chef at the Royal Hotel, and we'd just done the Flux Festival. He came and said, hey, listen, I'm a chef. I don't want to be doing chefing anymore. I want to be in events. So I took him on, trained him up, and then through that, I realized, like, there's a lot more we can do for younger guys. I had a friend of mine approach me, hey, my son wants to get into events, so we put him on the gate at Smoking Dragon. They did 2 years on the gate. Now they're doing production coordination. Lungelo's got his own brand doing DJing and running events, so is Mazwi. The Splashy Fen program that we started up in 2016 under Stu, we started getting guys from Hillcrest High School and from the local kind of the areas to try and train them up. First success story this year, the backline for most of the stages was supplied by one of the Hillcrest pupils that we trained up for years ago, who's now bought his own backline company and is now supplying backline to Splashy Fen. So it's that kind of stuff you can't, like, as much as I can do and as much knowledge as I can, like, impart on people, I'll do. So when we're sitting in a situation and something arises, I'll be like, right, we've got to fix it this way. And the guys will be like, why? And then I'll explain the process to them, and they see the process, then they understand the outcome. But to just go, that's what we're going to do like that, they're like, why? So to give them everything, that gives them a bigger knowledge, and it makes them more inquisitive and makes them want to learn more. And for me, there is no better way than learning on the job.
Yeah.
Learning on the job, getting something wrong, I can guarantee you won't make that same mistake again. You'll end up rectifying it down the line. So it's trial and error, but obviously if you've got that knowledge, the more trial you've got, less than error, much better.
Away. Okay. Now, you've worked on stages with some huge megastars, names like the Migos, J. Cole, Bryson Tiller, Travis Scott, to name a few. Which American superstar stood out the most for you, and why?
Sure, I'd have to say Metallica. 2006 we did the Coke Fest, and I was one of the head drivers. So we went to pick up Metallica from the airport, picked them up from the old airport on the apron as their plane landed, took them to to Coke Fest. I got a call about 5 minutes after getting to Kings Park. Get back to your vehicle, Lars Ulrich wants to warm up. So I go stand at my vehicle. Lars Ulrich gets in the vehicle with a policeman and a medic. We drive them around to the back of the Virgin rugby fields, and he just does 8 laps to warm up for his gig. Gets back in the car, we take him back to the event, into the stadium. They play their gig. On the way through, I had driven Kirk Hammett and Lars Ulrich, and then on the way back from the event, I drove James Hetfield and his tour manager. And sitting, driving, and they talking, carrying on, and he says, "Oh, I really was weird. Like when we got to certain parts in the set, like the crowd really like dropped off." And he tapped me on the shoulder. He was sitting in the middle of the Vita at the back, and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Are you a fan?" I said, "Dude, one of the biggest." He's like, "Well, you got any ideas about what happened tonight?" I said, "Yeah, anything you played after Black, you see the crowd didn't really respond." He said, "Anything we played after Black, anything from Saint Anger, anything further." I said, "Yeah. South Africa's a very old school audience. We love Ride the Lightning, back to Master of Puppets. You know, that's our kind of vibe. So anything after Black, we wouldn't really appreciate." He was like, "Oh, okay." It's said, "If you ever come back to South Africa, I guarantee you play anything from Black and back, you'll get the most amazing response. Anything after that, you'll see the same thing happened here." It was about 5 or 6 years later, I went to watch them in Cape Town, and I didn't have money at the time, so I ended up. I had been given 75 Rand by my Silver Sands poker. They give it to you on your birthday. So I was like, "Oh, $75. I went in and played cash games, played a whole lot of tournaments, made money, bought my ticket, bought my Metallica ticket and my plane ticket, and went down and watched them, watched the gig, and I realized afterwards that they didn't play anything but Black and back. I thought to myself, no, man, there's no ways that I had any influence on that. I mean, I'm just some little driver in some African country. And then I watched, while I was in Qatar now, I watched the FIFA Uncovered documentary. Not FIFA, the Woodstock 99. And I watched that and I was like, wow, that was a serious bugger up, that festival. And I went and watched it again, and I came across this guy on there called Lee Rosenblatt, who was the assistant site manager. And I really think what he had to say, it really resounded with me. And I was like, hey, I'm getting this guy. So I was like, hold on, found him online. Got on an email, said, "Dude, I really think to have a conversation with you sometime." Got an email back the same day. "Yeah, cool, let's schedule a call for next week." So got on a video call with him. We were on about an hour and a half video call. Turns out he tour managed Metallica for 14 years. That incident I was talking about, I described to him. I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about it. And he said to me, "Yeah, no, I remember that well. I was in South Africa for the first tour. I wasn't at the Durban gig, but I did the Joburg and Cape Town shows. And I do remember going back to South Africa, because he was one of his last tours was the second South African tour." And he said, "And I do really remember James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich having quite a big argument about the set list, but James Hetfield was adamant that he had information that was good to go on, and they went on it." So I was like, wow, that actually just confirmed the whole thing from the inside. And I was like, okay, well, now it's actually fact. And yeah, that was one of the best sets of music I've seen in my life. It was insane. And just for what they do for the industry. I mean, obviously they had the Napster thing, and they got a bit like weird about that. But I mean, they've taken a kind of rock music to another level if you think about it. And I mean, with the things they do in their spare time, like hunting blooming polar bears with crossbows, and I think it's just they've they really made that whole scene made an impact on me, and I was just like, okay, wow, there is a bigger picture, you know.
Yo, Lappies. You know, as you were talking, I mean, just what you did, right? You watched a documentary. You saw someone you felt you could relate with. You contacted them. You got feedback. Like, that's super proactive, right? Now, I'd like to ask as a sidebar, what do you think prevents so many people, so many young people, so many South Africans especially, from taking that proactive stance? Because like you are witness to, we are global citizens, you know. I mean, Osmic said the same thing at one of the Music Mbizo interviews we did with him. He was like, you want to go see Jay-Z? Find out where Jay-Z hangs out, go to America, you'll see him, you know, type thing. But it's almost like a lot of South Africans, we have this blockage, you know, of thinking there's concrete slabs between what we desire and the actualizing of what we desire. Now, you as a super proactive person, you just skipped that. You saw someone, reached out, did it, got it, you know. What do you think prevents, like, masses of people from having that same approach?
I guess it's apprehension, like people worried about, like, oh, if I contact him, what's he going to say to me? I wonder if he'll understand my story. I wonder if he'll just tell me to bugger off. I wonder, and people end up trying to analyze that situation too much before getting into it. For me, I'll just rather go, okay, I'm contacting him. Let me see what happens once I've got hold of him. If I can't get hold of him, then I'm going to try another route. But it's, for me, it's always been, if you want something, you've got to go and get it. You can't sit around. That whole story of good things come to those who wait. I don't believe that saying. Good things come to those who go out and work hard and find it, you know. And that's the first little step, is something like that, going, I need to chat to this guy. Right, Google him, find out. Oh, he's got a new company. There's his email address. Bang. I didn't even expect an email back.
Yeah.
And within like a couple of hours, there was an email back going, hey, dude, yeah, you're in the World Cup. Yeah, I've worked a couple of World Cups. I'd like to chat. And boom. All of a sudden, hour and a half on the phone, having a long chat.
Yeah.
So I've got a really good contact there now. And if anything comes up that I can work with him on, or he can work with me on, obviously we'll chuck it together. And I mean, to work with someone like that who's like top of their game.
Yeah.
I'd give my left leg, you know, to be able to go work in America for him for 3 years, come back. I mean, the knowledge I'd gain is insane. And for me, knowledge in this industry, knowledge is what it's about. The more you know, the easier it is to fix problems. So it's not always about how much money you're going to get paid. It's about like doing the job to your best capability and having people turn around and go, sure, we couldn't have done it without him. That's when you know you're moving forward in your kind of industry.
That's dope. Now, from an observer's perspective, your career has progressed in a very authentic way. I mean, you told us about, you know, humble beginnings, working on the ground, doing small gigs, gradual, steady accumulation. What would you say are some of the biggest lessons you've learned along the way?
First one, always be honest. Never ever bend the truth or try and make a situation seem better than it is. On events, people need to know the true scale of what's going down. I mean, I did the Pixies and the Cure with 4+3 Productions, which is a mate of mine, Sven, where we worked under Andy from Imp Events. And Andy was on the radio the one day, and I'm radioed Sven, and I was like, hey Sven, I got a problem. Very quickly on the radio came this voice, no, we don't have problems, we have challenges. Sorry Andy, Sven, I've got a challenge. And that's the way we had to word it. But the thing is, you can't ever sugarcoat anything. If it's bad, and it's got to get sorted. And I mean, some of the situations we've gone through with events, it's like you're 100% honest with, firstly, the promoter, the production guys, and the audience. They're either going to accept it or they're going to reject it. But it is the truth and it is what's happening, so we've got to work with it. And I think due diligence is another one. Always do your due diligence. I triple check everything. Some people get irritated with me when I do it, but it's something that I've learned to do, because first time around, second time around, you might miss something really small. The third time around, you'll pick it up, bang, it's done. And then, I mean, for us in the game, it depends on what position you're working, but following instructions is a massive one. Be able to follow instruction to the T, like go and do this and do it like that. it's not to say that when I give someone a job, that's what I say is go and do it like that. If they've got a better idea, I'm always open to it. Even if I'm project manager and I've got a production assistant saying, hey, I might have a better plan to do this, I'm all ears. Because in the end of the day, it's not only about experience, it's about seeing things from so many different angles. You'll always have someone that will be able to, oh, I see a weakness or I see a strength. And then basically think ahead of the game. Like, I look for problems before they happen. So I'm constantly analyzing things and looking at it going, okay, well, we've only got 2 trucks. We actually need 4. In a week's time, we're going to be 25 truckloads behind and we're going to be in stress. Contact the supplier. Oh, we don't have any more trucks. What can we do? All right, well then, let's do a night shift. Get 2 more drivers in, use the same 2 trucks at night, let the other 2 drivers drive. Now we've got 4 trucks for the day. So there's always a solution to the problem, and it's like thinking outside the box or thinking a little bit more linearly, where you can't just look at the problem and worry about it. You've actually just got to go, okay, that's the problem. How many solutions can we come up with? Pick the best one and go. So, yeah, that's the thing I find fun. I find the most fun about my job is actually challenges. It's like, oh, damn, how do we deal with that? Can we think about how we did it last time? Might not work. Boss, what do you think? It's your job, you do it. Okay, I'm going to go with this decision. Bang. Because a lot of the time you're working on such short time frames. When you look at the international concerts, we've got a couple of weeks to set up. But when you're looking at the World Cup, 6 months worth of work. So you've got so long to achieve things. And I actually, most of the time on the job with FIFA and that, I was sitting there going, I really miss the craziness of a concert, of just like hardly sleeping for 2 weeks and just going non-stop, eating burgers on the fly, and all of a sudden the job's finished and you take the stage down and you're like, wow, that's done. It's 2 weeks worth of work gone. But 6, when you're doing like, I mean, the World Cup with the Arab Cup, and that was 18 months. It's the longest job of my life. Glad it's over. I'm glad I did it though, and now it's just look for better things. I'd like to do an Olympics. That's one of the next things I'd like to do. Olympics and World Cup. If you can do those 2, I think I've achieved something, at least something.
You've done a lot. You just touched a tad bit on the World Cup, but I'm going to ask you to go a bit more into that. I mean, you just came back. You worked at the FIFA Arab Cup and the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Those are two of the biggest events in the world. Can you please tell us a bit more about that, your experiences, what it was like? You just told us, you guys spent 6 months planning, leading up to that. What the planning, the actual events, the games were like, post, yeah.
So yeah, I worked in Saudi Arabia in 2019, and I met a guy called Tim, who's a really good friend of mine. He actually was one of the youngest project managers on Olympics ever. I think he was 26 years old on the London Games in 2012. So he's gained a lot of respect in the industry, and a lot of people like him, and obviously offer him jobs. So we came back, COVID had hit. Straight after COVID, he gave me a call and said, look, they're looking for overlay managers, which like kind of site managers for the World Cup. Are you interested? I said, yeah, I'd definitely be interested. Did the interview. The guys were like, yes, cool, we've accepted you. I got a letter of offer from the company in Qatar. And then we had those riots. I woke up on the Monday morning, the day I was going to sign the offer, and Durban was burning. So obviously went home, got onto the neighborhood watch groups, got involved, started protecting the spa, got hold of the guys in Qatar and said, look, I don't know if I can leave South Africa. It's a very volatile situation that we're in, but maybe you should get someone else to fill my position, because I don't know when I can come over. If this ends, I can come. They said, no, we've targeted you, we like your CV, we want you to come, we'll give you an extra month to make the decision, which was good. So 3 weeks went past, everything quietened down, signed the deal and got on the plane. I did 10 days in quarantine at one of the hotels, because I hadn't been vaxxed at that stage. I got vaxxed on my first trip back, actually, when I got to J&J, just to make things easier. But we went straight into pre-production of the Arab Cup. I mean, I got there the first day and we were handed the site plan, like the size of this wall, with all of the details on it of every single tent, every piece of fencing, and we had to basically decipher that into a spreadsheet, doing what we call a bill of quantities. Basically build that out of that and then order all of that material. I think we started September, yeah. So in October we had like just over 2 months to prep for the Arab Cup, and there was I mean, I had about 25 Ks of fencing on that. We had over 100 marquees, like close to 100 toilet units, the 6 meter by 2.4 containers. Those all had to be trenched in. So we basically did the Arab Cup as a test event. Our stadium was Al Bayt, which was the opening and the closing match of the Arab Cup. And we were the one stadium out of 6 that were being tested by FIFA. So we had to pull everything off to the FIFA spec for the World Cup. Or if we didn't, they would have pulled the World Cup and given it to another country. So we had a lot of pressure on us. But the team that we had, I mean, I had another Durban guy, Randall George, and I had a Brazilian guy, Rafael Vieira. And like, all three of us had our strengths in each area, and we'd work with our strengths. So if I had a problem and it was more along Rafael's area, I'd go to him and go, how would you figure this out? What should we do? So, and then our boss, Alex, was an absolute legend. I've never worked with anyone that cool in my life. If Sven here is, sorry for Sven, but Sven's cool, but Alex is the most amazing guy. He's got the same background as me. He's run festivals in the UK, done a lot of big sports stuff, and then he was the senior manager for Overlay. And a lot of the time he kept me in check, where I would get kind of frustrated with things, because he was there since 2014, so he knows the processes and how slow things take. For us getting there and going, right, we need this, and weeks later still not having it, he's like, listen, I know you're frustrated, chill out, it'll come, send me another mail, I'll forward it and I'll CC you in. And that's all it was. He was basically our like kind of pressure cooker, where we'd just press a button and he would push for us. So the Arab Cup went well, really, really well. I mean, the 2 days before we had some of the fence fall down. It's like 2-ton fence blocks that had blown over because there was gantries on it. We fixed that up before the game. The games all went well, and then we had a little bit of time off in January, or we're just like starting to pack down. And then a lot of the stuff that we had for the Arab Cup, they decided, right, let's just leave the marquees, leave the toilets, leave some stuff where it is, because it's going to be cheaper to leave it there and pay the hire than to demobilize and remobilize. So we did the Emir Cup, which is like a really small little competition run by the Emir of the company. It's his his competition for the best local team. I ran that one in March of last year, and then went on to the World Cup. We started in July on the World Cup. We brought, there were about 25 South Africans that we brought out. I had a hand in helping to bring quite a few of them. They were under the carpentry division, what we call event services. So they would work under us as like assistant site managers, doing things like making sure tents are put up in the right place, marking tents out, supervising labor. So the team that we had on site, we had about 20 of us at Al Bayt. 4 in the overlay division, and then the rest were like civils and labor and everything else. But it fitted really well together. I mean, once we'd finished that, my job on that was all the scheduling. Basically, over the Arab Cup, I was more on the ground handling stuff, and then when it came to the World Cup, I was pushed back into the office. I did more of the scheduling, more of the communications, more figuring out workloads, how to get things done in the right time. A lot less of actual on the ground hands-on work. It was another note here. Yeah, basically ordering all the vehicles and plants, managing all the labor. I basically took on the position of being that cog in the wheel, that if anything had to happen, it would come through me, and then I'd disperse it into the right places. Yeah. Which I've learned to do like through my time, because the thing is to try and do too many things, you're obviously going to run yourself thin. So to spread it out, and for us to go, okay, well, you've only got 2 things to do today. I've got 5. Can you take one? Can you take one? Then we've all got 4. So like the team that we worked with was really good. I can't wait to work with those people again. They are. I mean, after 18 months, you become like family.
Yeah.
It's something like my brothers now.
Yeah. I have a question. What do you self-title your workmanship as, like production manager?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, with my CV, I've done production management of events, so basically organising the whole event from the ground up. Also done project management of events, like the CannaCon. We did that. The CannaCon festival was that little cannabis expo in Durban North, and I project managed that. So that's also now handling the marketing, worrying about the ticketing. It's a lot more involved there. But my strength, the job that I feel more comfortable and I'm happy doing, where I know there's not much that I can't pull off site management.
Okay.
Because that's just staying ahead of the game, making sure the power is sorted, making sure the toilets are running, the stage is running, the bars are stocked. I mean, that's, to me, that overall managing the whole event from production and project aspect, I enjoy, but I like getting on the ground and actually doing it instead of sitting in the office, which I wasn't really afforded over the World Cup. I got out the office as much as I could, but the guys would be like, hey, we need a schedule, get back to your office and get it done. I was like, how did I end up an office jockey? My boss was like, yeah, it's progression, dude.
It is. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because instead of being the one running around, you're now ordering the shots.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I have a question from my my gender equality, activist side. You mentioned bringing up a team of 20 from SA. Were there any women on the team of 20, or were there any women leaders within the FIFA World Cup spaces that stood out for you?
Plenty.
Yeah.
So with us, the guys that we brought out were all what we call fit out. So it's carpentry work. So it's all mainly male guys. And then the event teams as well were mainly male guys. But then when you looked at the other structures, so we were called the overlay division. So we had to basically deliver everybody's aspects for the job to happen. So if they had a tent with power and toilets and stuff at a transport hub outside of the festival, we would have to set all that up. So those were called functional areas. Most of the functional areas were run by women because they are a lot less likely to give you attitude or get like Buffy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the guys we realized there, like there's because you're dealing with nationalities from Russians to Argentinians to Germans, so there's the language barrier is hard enough, but also the way that people work inside their cultures is quite like they do it the way they do it, which some of us don't understand. But then you realize, but that's the way they do it. Actually, that's a good way to do it. Yeah. The head of volunteer services, a lady called Jenny, awesome person. She was also in charge of all the catering. She was the chief lady there. She didn't take stress. You gave her stress inside the mess hall, you didn't eat. Let me think. The broadcast division there was a lady called Natalia, also a Russian lady, head of that, killed it. I mean, guys wouldn't even argue with her because she was so skilled. She knew exactly what she was saying. She'd done it before. Do it this way, get it done. Thank you. I'd say probably 50% of the functional areas were headed up by women. And then also in the management structure of FIFA, when they were doing their tours, 20 people walking around, it's probably 12 to 15 women in the group. Because I just think like the way that men handle things, especially on an event when the pressure's on, and the way that women handle things, I think they've got a much softer approach, and they don't tend to get people worked up. I noticed that a lot, like going and talking to Jenny, and she was like, oh, I really need this done today. And I'm like, I can't get to it today. Our teams are stretched for the next 3 days. I can schedule you for like 4 days' time. She's like, okay, get to it when you can. What can you do for now? I was like, well, I can do this. She's like, that's perfect. That'll hold it like that until then, carry on. And I just felt so much easier dealing with the ladies because there's no ego.
Yeah.
With the men, it's always about,
Yeah.
With the women, it was just like, it was so easy to deal with. Everything got done quicker.
Yeah.
I really, for me, like the overlay, we had 3 or 4 women in the senior overlay management role as well. I mean, Bagti was in charge of the media center. Jackie was in charge of the DNCC. So like senior overlay managers, half the team were like women. There was a woman called Oz that did Al Janoub Stadium. She's an architect from Turkey. She knows her stuff backwards. The stuff I learned from her, just on the phone asking her questions. Hey, you did this. How did you do that? Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's the only way to do it for me, is to gain knowledge from people who've already done that before. If I've never done something like that, I'm going to go, who has? Give me some experience behind it, and then go and attack it.
Brilliant approach. I'm so encouraged to know that even in these mega spaces like the World Cup, there's equal gender representation. Encouraging,
Definitely.
For me as a young woman in project management and an artist and being an artist. So, what are you currently working on, Lappies, or are you taking a much deserved break?
Trying to. I've had like just over a month and a half off now. I actually went to Splashy this weekend. I got a call to tour manage Casey Lowry, one of the international acts. So I drove him up, spent 3 days at the festival with him, and that was awesome because that's not like production managing the event where I was getting to sleep at 1:30 in the morning after closing when I was running Splashy. I'd close the dance stage, get to sleep at about or get to my tent at 1:30, 2 in the morning, get to sleep, up at 6 to start getting prepped for the next day. So they were rough. It was hard days, but in the end of the day, it's rewarding, and I used to love it. Now that I'm this side of the fence, and I'm like, wake up at 9, the artist is having breakfast at 10, take him to Splashy at 12. It was fantastic. I mean, I haven't tour managed for like 15 years, and it was I had a lot of fun. I've also been booked for the Monster Jam that's happening here in Durban at the stadium with all the monster trucks. I'm site managing that. And then I'm finally going to work on the Champions League final in Istanbul in Turkey. Supposed to work on that in 2021 before COVID came. And then 2022, they had, 2021 was cancelled because of COVID. 2022, it was in Russia, and then Russia invaded Ukraine, and I didn't get the job because there was only one international artist instead of 3, because I'm working on the talent ops division there. So I think I'm working with Burna Boy. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Yeah, it's been released. I think I'm working with Burna Boy or one of the other. There's 3 artists that are doing the opening ceremony for the Champions League final. So finally get to do that. That's 2 weeks in Turkey, and then got a lot of lines in the water waiting for. So it's Saudi and the Middle East really start up again July, August. That's when everything starts happening. So I've put a few lines out. Just waiting to hear back, and I think probably by end of May I'd start doing interviews, but I'm going to try and hold on. I'm trying to get a nice long-term contract where I can put enough away to retirement and then actually go back and start doing like smaller events again and actually enjoying doing the work I'm doing, because right now it's about get as much done as possible, put the money in the bank, get your investments sorted. So I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I've just hit my half century, so yeah, I feel like a cricket player at the moment.
Yeah, Burna Boy. I'm still getting over that one. I'm like thinking to myself, I need to send some Lex Lafoy music for a playlist that Lappies gonna play while he's there. Some Durban stuff.
Definitely.
My last question before I ask how people can reach out to you, I want to ask what advice you have for young people who want to do what you do, yet at the same time that's such a multifold question, because I mean there's parts of you that's stage manager experience, there's tour manager experience, there's events management, there's project management, there's site management, there's like you have multiple expertise that enable you to do what you do at such a high level. But for young people looking at you, hearing about some of the dope things you've achieved, what advice do you have to them to, if they want to get into the line of work you're in?
I'd say, most people these days are studying these project management courses, but it's like a 2-week course. It's an exam on paper, and the thing is, you get that qualification, you go into a job, and you're faced with a problem you've never met, you're in trouble. So my way that I did it is I started as a driver and a runner on the international concerts back in the mid-90s, and then just learned my way up there. Went into, I'll be running backstage hospitality. Did that for a couple shows. Then was like, okay, cool, now I want to run stage management. Ran stage management for a couple shows. Learned every aspect of it, so that while I am kind of production managing and someone's got a question about the position they're in, at least I've got the ammo to handle it and go, this is my advice. But the best way I would say it is to definitely find an events company, go in as an intern, even say to them, look, I'll do the first 3 months for free as a 3-month probation. If I haven't learned enough and you feel like I'm not cut out for this industry, then let me know and let me go. But to work by experience and to experience things is so much better. You get thrown in the deep end. The next time you've got to deal with that problem, you remember exactly how you dealt with it last time, and you get it done. Knowledge gained on the job is the best you can get, So I would say rather than go and study and spend money, because I know a lot of people in this situation at the moment that have spent money to study, but they can't get a job because now they've got the studies but no experience. So I would say go and do an internship, and maybe while you're interning, do some studying so that you're getting practical knowledge with the theory. But to just get theory, I mean, there were a good couple of guys that I've worked with in the past that are qualified up to the hilt when it comes to project management courses and everything. But on the ground knowledge, when something went wrong, they were kind of stumped. They'd be like, okay, how do we fix this? It's like, oh, that's easy. We've done it 3 times. It happened last week. But they haven't experienced that because they're just fresh out of, they've got all this knowledge, but to try and adapt it to what they're working on is hard. So for me, if you're young and you want to get into events, like approach an events company, say I'll work the first couple for free. If I'm good enough, keep me on. If I'm not, let go. I mean, there's a couple of people I've tried to help at the moment to push on to certain sound hire companies and that, because I mean, there's so much talent that we've got in this country, from everything from music to the technical side of things. But it seems that we just don't have the ability to be like the programs to push us and move us forward, which is something, I mean, like I was saying about the splashy thing, it's amazing seeing people starting off and then in a few years' time they're already 5 levels up, and you're like, wow, that's hard work, And for me, I'll back that any day of the week.
I feel like I have so many more questions. Like, this conversation could go on forever. But yeah, thank you so much, Andrew, Loubser, aka the Lappies.
The Lappies.
Please let our audience, our listeners, our readers know where they can find you on social media.
It's Andrew Loubser on Facebook, and then the Lappies, Andrew Loubser on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and then it's the Lappies on Instagram, and I've also got a Slingshot Productions Instagram page, which is Slingshot Pro. So you can find me there, message me, say how's it. I'm always there to respond if I can help with anything, point you in the right direction, give you some advice. Might not always be the best advice, but I hope to think it's decent. But yeah, I'm always willing to help. So if anyone needs anything, they can contact me through you, through my social media. Always available to chat.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Lex. Thank you very much.